Hi there, friends. Welcome to this masterclass on how to reignite the magic in your relationship with your wife, even when it is strained. So, in today's hectic life, what usually happens is a lot of people have huge issues with work life balance. So, let's understand who this particular masterclass is for. This is for senior and middle level managers of MNCs, ID companies, and corporations, as well as professionals like business owners, doctors, dentists, lawyers, chartered accountants, consultants. Basically, anyone who's spending too much time at work and in traveling and wanting to have a great balance between their professional success and a joyful, complete family life really fast. It's for people who are struggling really hard and do not have the joyful experience at home that they want and they deserve. This is for ambitious and self driven people who want to feel valued, loved, and respected at home and not be seen only as a money spinner. This is for professionals who end up spending long hours at work or travel for days doing something really impactful but are not able to make their wife and family see things the way they want and to appreciate them. So, in the next 45 minutes, and let me explain how this goes ahead. Though it's 45 minutes, I have broken this up into three distinct videos or three distinct pieces of masterclass, three distinct parts. I request all of you to stay with me through all three parts, and this session might just be the thing that makes a difference in your life and in your relationship at home and at work. Right. In the next 45 minutes, you're going to discover the step by step game plan senior leaders and professionals are using right now to build deep relationships at home. You're going to learn a powerful engagement system that will quickly turn you into an ideal husband your wife would be proud of. You're also going to learn how to create a home environment where you're welcomed with a smile each day. You're going to learn a magic formula to get your wife to appreciate what you do at the workplace and, in fact, also contribute to your thinking process. So, here's my big promise right up front. What I'm promising is a step by step game plan to mend fences, deepen relationships, and have a joyful home experience in 30 days or less. That's right, in less than 30 days. That's how fast my particular system works. Right, so let me begin by asking you a question. Does this sound like you? You work really hard to achieve success in your career and life. People at home do not understand it. Maybe you're already trying to explain your situation to your wife, only for her to not be willing to understand your point of view at all. You end every day either with an argument or getting the silent treatment. You have probably even hinted at or discussed divorce. You're frustrated because you know you can have more meaning, more balance, more joy in your life, but it seems to be just out of reach for you. You're trying your best to explain and adjust into the balance of personal and professional life, but it's just not working because you do not have the game plan to make an impact. You're worried about a potential separation and the pain, both financial and children, that would obviously follow. Well, if that sounds like you, do you know what the real problem is? You don't know the five shifts. That is the real problem. So, we are going to spend the next 45 minutes over the three-part video to understand what these five shifts are. You need to know them. Okay, so these are very, very powerful shifts, and you need to put them to work for you to finally have the joyful life you crave. Now, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to make those shifts today. And once you know them, you'll go home every day feeling happy. You'll be welcomed joyfully at home, and you'll spend some good times leading a peaceful night's sleep. You'll be discussing things that you really need to as a family. You'll be planning children's education, things to do, vacation, enrichment in your life, maybe even planning for retirement and life thereafter. You'll no longer be stuck in the rut of who is right and who is wrong. You'll actually be discussing the more important topic of what works. You'll be extending the joy of your relationship to be with friends and having a higher quality of social life. You'll be able to take control of some more aspects of life that determine your experience of what a joyful life is. You'll also be wondering why you didn't do this years ago instead of only reading tips in newspapers, magazines, internet, etc. You'll also wonder why you wasted time taking suggestions from friends who actually know no better. You'll realize that to have a joyful life is simple when you make the right shifts and you have the right process. You'll have a process that gives you the confidence and ability to build great relationships and really enjoy a complete life. Right. So now I'm going to walk you through these five powerful shifts today. But first, let me tell you who I am. I'm Arun Rao. I'm the founder and CEO of TTS Coaching. I worked in multinationals and corporates for 22 years before starting my coaching academy. I have worked closely with hundreds of senior and middle level leaders and have seen their personal lives fall apart for the most avoidable reasons. I've also helped many professionals see things for what they are and to help them refocus on things in life that really, really matter. I've helped a handful of professionals turn around their relationship from the brink of separation, impacting them positively for life. My specialty is in helping people become excellent communicators and have great strategies for deepening their relationships. I help professionals in recognizing and identifying the most important aspects that constitutes our experience of life and help them focus on things that really, really matter. So you need to know the five shifts. These are very powerful shifts. You need to let them work for you. You need to have the life you crave. And I'm now going to walk you through these five magical shifts. So that everything that I'm giving you today is part of a system. I call this the magic reignition system. And let me walk you through the five shifts that I'm talking about. The first one is a paradigm shift. It's about winning your inner game. Most people don't recognize, but the fact of the matter is, change always starts with me. Why did it begin? Is another question. So, when you're thinking about your relationship, you need to go back and see where it all began. We look at how you can be the change, how you make love happen, and finally, what are some of the internal resistances that you need to remove. The second part is about soulful communication and the fact that you shouldn't walk the journey alone. The third step is to prioritize and know what are the first things that you need to do first. You also need to talk about what to do before how you do it. In a marriage, there are always tough corners that you get into. How do you negotiate them? How do you respond strategically and use every opportunity, which is a tough conversation, into one which deepens relationships? Finally, how working with the very best actually makes things happen. Everything else is fine, but you always need support structures to make a strategy work. So, what are some of the support structures that you can have in order to deepen this relationship and reignite the passion in your marriage? Right. So, let me show you first the first shift that needs to happen, the paradigm shift, and let me talk to you a little about it. So, like I said earlier, the first paradigm one needs to think about change always begins with me. The tendency is always to blame the other partner, while I'm not getting into whether that's true or false, because that's always a difficult side to take. I don't want to take sides as to who's right and who's wrong. The fact of the matter is, irrespective of who's right and wrong, if things have to change, you have to start it. We'll look at some of the things that where did it begin, how you can be the change, how do you make love into a verb rather than a noun, so it's not something that happens to you, but you make it happen. And finally, how you flow towards your goal. So, what is this first shift that I'm talking about? So, let me begin by saying take the higher ground, own up. Irrespective of what you believe, trust me, when two people are fighting, each person has some part to play in it. At least let us begin by owning up the smallest of parts that we may have played, or the large parts that we may have played in the relationship getting strained. So we have to begin by taking the higher ground and being honest to ourselves and owning up, saying, maybe this is something that I need to do differently. This is where I've gone wrong. And you have to take responsibility for your part. So the problem always begins when you're trying to balance conflicting demands. Yeah. So the problem statement being, she's not willing to look at your situation from your point of view. She always complains about your absence and the fact that you're not holding up your end of the bargain in the relationship. Two of you argue often or go into an uncommunicative or silent mode. So these could be some of the way the problem manifests itself, the strain in the relationship. If this is how it's manifested itself, so one more way, you're aware that you need to be doing more, but are spending longer and longer hours in office. Your children now sense the tension at home. One of you has even managed the dreaded D word, that is divorce, for the first time. So when this happens, you do wish that there was an alternative, right? And the alternative that you want is obviously that she appreciates the thing you do to ensure a good life for the family. Who doesn't want respect? You work so hard to give a good life. You wish she would appreciate that a little more. The two of you feel a close connection despite the hours that you spend apart. Look, you'll always spend hours apart, but when you are together, do you still think of the hours you spent apart, or do you absolutely love the time that you're spending with each other right now? I'm sure it's the second one, and that's the alternative I'm talking about. You communicate openly about your thoughts, plans, challenges, and feelings. Uh, I'm sure you would love that. You feel proud about the role you're playing in helping your family lead a complete life. Your children communicate openly with you and come to you with their challenges. And this is especially true if it is teenage children, If they're staying away from you and not talking to you about all the problems they have, there's something wrong. And it'll be great if they could, you had a situation where they come up to you and talk openly. You have family goals that both of you understand and you work towards. Now, these are wonderful alternatives to have. Yeah. So, how does one get the accountability accelerator in place to win the inner game and overcome this first shift? So, let's understand. So, there are two ways to build accountability and build and prove your commitment, right? So the two ways to influence basically. One is you tell her how committed you are. You talk about it with passion and say, I've done so much for you. I love you so much. These are the things I'm doing. How can you feel this way about me? So on and so forth. So you're telling her. Fine. And the other way is she experiences how committed you are. Okay, think about it. One is when you tell her, and second, she experiences for herself as to how committed you are. These are two ways to influence. When you tell her how committed you are, well, this could be her expression. If it's happened more than a few times, then she's probably thinking, I've heard of this before, and we go through the same thing again. He tells me how committed he is, but then again, he's not around when I need him. So telling only takes you so far. But if she was experiencing how committed you are, well, this might be the expression on her face. The joy of being with someone you love is something to be experienced. Well, here's how it's done. I'm sure you want to be in a situation where she experiences and not the situation where you keep telling. So here's how it's done. This model that I call as the accountability accelerator has got some very clear, concise steps. Okay. Number one, we need to know that words matter. I know a lot of men who think, you know, I love her. Why do I have to tell her? Why doesn't she understand it? Well, it doesn't work that way. Words matter. Not only do words matter, you have to know the words that trigger irritation and the words that trigger involvement. So we look at what these words are, and it's important you know these words. Experiences matter. You have to know for yourself what the experiences you've had in the past that have led to where you are in the relationship. I'm sure you've got together because you all were so committed to each other. You all were confident that you're meant for each other and that you're going to make each other the happiest people in the world. Then what went wrong? What were those instances where things started souring a little? Do you remember those experiences? Finally, realization matters. Okay, so you have to realize that uh, very typically, most human beings still have that reptilian instinct in their mind where they react to a situation. So when you're being accused of something, for example, you immediately become defensive. Now, that's the reptilian part of your brain that's reacting to a stimulus. But we are mammals. We are the highest of evolution that evolution has produced. And if we are at that highest level of awareness, then you cannot be reacting. You need to be responding. So you need to program your mind in order to respond and not react. Feelings matter. Well, yours as well as hers. You need to know how you are feeling, how she is feeling, and knowing how both of you feel is actually a win. Finally, communication matters. And here I have found in my experience that the written word is so much more powerful than the spoken one. And you need to have an irresistible format of the written word with which you can accelerate the accountability that you demonstrate to your wife. Well, here's a case study for you. This is Ashish. Ashish was a general manager operations in a BPO, managing a US based client. His wife was working in the back office of an insurance company. They hardly met during the week, because Ashish was doing the US shift, which is what we call as the graveyard shift. His wife was working through the day. So they hardly met during the week, and their relationship had reached a breaking point with constant fights, and each one claiming that he or she is making a bigger sacrifice for the relationship. We worked with them for 2 weeks to build an accountability accelerator for Ashish and a communication strategy. And in the third week, he was able to break down the walls and move forward in the relationship with a fantastic heart to heart conversation. Now, just the accountability accelerator could make such a huge shift for Ashish. So, this is a great case study that we have. Well, let's understand where you are. Are you at a phase where you struggle to have an open conversation with your wife? Whenever you do it, leads to an argument. She does not understand what you're going through. You're at a strife phase when you do have open conversations, but you seem to be discussing the same things again and again. There is acceptance a little bit, but the conversations are not enjoyable. Or you are at the flow stage, the success stage, where discussions flow very easily. It's a 50-50 split of speaking and listening. You can easily discuss your problems as well as future plans without being judged. Yeah, so I just put this graphic so that you can figure out where you are. And probably the accountability accelerator, the first shift that I just spoke about, could be the one that's making the difference for you in life. So here's a question. How do you want to do things, the old way or the new way? You can struggle to have a discussion again and again with your wife about challenges and sacrifices, about not getting acknowledged, and so on. And you know that just doesn't work. Or your relationship can continue to go downhill with arguments, judgments, justifications, and so on. Or the new way, where you develop the accountability amplifier strategy, get to be on the same side of the table as your wife, enjoy fruitful conversations, and enjoy each other's company. Rediscover the romance that made you come together in the first place. With this, I conclude part one of the video. We've spoken about one shift till now. There are four more shifts that you need to go through. There are two more parts for the video. I hope you come back in part two of the video. There are three more shifts that I shall take you through. That just might be the shifts needed for you to lead this wonderful life with your family. Thanks once again. This is Arun Rao. See you on the other side on video number two. Bye for now.